Hello, 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 and welcome back to another edition of Fan Talk. It's your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. Of course, that is me, Kyle Brenchley, in the house on this Friday. Fan Talk Friday. Let's get it. Wearing an MLB hat, but we're not going to be talking about baseball quite yet. Just a little preview. In about a month or so, we'll do a little baseball preview, so keep that in mind. Keep that, because that's coming down the pipe. If you know, you know. Welcome to Fan Talk. If this is your first time here, then wow, congratulations. This is a podcast by me, Kyle Brenchley, just a casual fan. Casual, yeah, right. Give yourself more credit. Just a fanatic fan who loves sports, talking about the perspective of sports from this side of the TV, as many of you guys sit on. This is a podcast you can find anywhere you get your podcast. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. I am there. Thank you guys so much. Of course, I've been coming up on almost 3 years. It's more like 2.5, but we're getting closer to the 3-year mark. So it's been fun. It's been a great journey. Thank you so much for joining. We're talking NFL Conference Championships on the podcast today. Of course, we'll talk about some NFL coach hirings for some teams whose seasons are already over. I will tell you which team to root for because your team is probably out. All that and more here on Fan Talk today. Let's jump right in. Rogue One poster is there. Still need to watch Skeleton Crew. I'm getting to it. I promise. No candle burning this time. Sometimes the candle just does not burn, and that's okay. Life goes on. Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's talk about this new segment that I've been doing. I started it last week, and it's a For Dummies segment. And obviously, no offense, but most of you may not be as interested or as invested into sports as I am. So, in an effort to make everyone feel welcome and to make this podcast a little more accessible for everyone, I am dumbing it down a little bit for you. All right, so right now we're talking NFL, so we're going to do NFL for Dummies. On this week's segment of NFL for Dummies, let's talk about what is going on. Many of you are like, I know the Super Bowl is going to be happening soon, but I don't know when. I maybe don't know how teams get there. I know the regular season's over, but how does a team get to the Super Bowl? So we've already gotten to the playoffs. We've already had the first couple rounds. We had the wild card round. We had the divisional round. Essentially, when you're in the playoffs, it's in a bracket. So if you win, you get to move on and play the next team that won. If you lose, you go home. You go to Cancun. That's the running joke is when your team doesn't make it or loses, they go to Cancun or Cabo. So right now we are in the conference championships. What that means, the NFL is split into two conferences, the NFC and the AFC. NFC stands for National Football Conference. AFC stands for American Football Conference. And that is an homage to back in the day when the AFC was actually a whole different league. There was the NFL that had a couple teams, and then there was a whole separate league that had a couple of teams. They came together, I believe it was in the 60s or something like that. And when they came together, they started doing the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl, the reason they do the Super Bowl is because the two teams came together. They call it the Super Bowl era. So there's two conferences, and there are only two teams left in each conference. In the National Football League, or the NFC, is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Commanders. In the AFC, or American Conference League, it is the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. So you're probably wondering, which team should I root for? Because your team is probably out. If one of your teams is already in, then you know who you're rooting for. But if one of your teams is out, like me, for example, the Denver Broncos made the playoffs, but they lost to the Buffalo Bills, so they're out. Who would I be rooting for? Who should I be rooting for on February 9th when the Super Bowl kicks off? So I'll help you out. I'll give you the team's profiles. I'll tell you everything you need to know about these teams, and you can make a very educated decision. So let's start on the NFC side. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles earned the 2 seed in the playoffs, which means they did very well. They won their division, and then they went on to have a very good record in the regular season. So they won a lot of games. They didn't lose as many games. They have a really good quarterback named Jalen Hurts. They have an even better running back named Saquon Barkley. They have a much improved defense, so their defense is really strong as well. Philadelphia, obviously a very passionate fan base city, the city of brotherly love. They had a snow game earlier this year. They will have the home field advantage, which means the game will be played in Philadelphia because they are the 2 seed. They are the higher seed, so they get the home field advantage. Philadelphia played in the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago against the Kansas City Chiefs and ultimately lost that game 38-35. So they're looking to bounce back. They did win the Super Bowl about 8 years ago with Nick Foles as their quarterback. Their starting quarterback Carson Wentz was injured, and it was a Cinderella type run. Even though they were down during the season, in the playoffs it was kind of Cinderella type run with impressive wins and a very impressive win over a Tom Brady Patriots team, denying the Patriots one more ring. So Philadelphia, a fun team to root for. Definitely the favorites coming out of the NFC. Great run attack, great fan base. Their color is green, and of course their mascot is an eagle. So there's the Eagles if you want to root for them. They're playing the Washington Commanders. Now the Commanders is a team that is rooted in history. They used to be known as the Washington Redskins and had the Native American chief on their helmet, and they had the name Redskins. They recently changed to the Washington Commanders within the last 5 years or so. They still have the same colors, kind of a maroon and yellow type color, as well as white. They're based out of Landover, Maryland, but they're called Washington because they're technically, Virginia's team, but also Washington, D.C., and, so that's why they're called Washington. They're based there, not in the state of Washington. They are the 6th seed, so they're higher up. They had a decent record. They had a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who first year did very, very well. Probably is going to win the best offensive rookie award of the year. They have a great offensive attack with Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, Chris Robinson. A lot of good pieces. A decent defense as well, led by Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, a lot of other players as well that you don't need to necessarily know their names to root for them. They are the underdog. They are in the same division as the Eagles, which means that they've played. The Eagles won the first game, and then the Commanders won the second game. So this will be the third time they're meeting. Should be a fun matchup. If you want to root for an underdog, this is the team. They're on an incredible playoff run as well. They just beat the number 1 seeded Detroit Lions in Detroit. They also won against Tampa Bay, a very good team, a walk-off field goal to win it. So they're on a high. They're definitely an underdog. Again, the Washington Commanders playing the Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to root for the Commanders, there are your reasons why. Let's go over to the AFC. You have the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, very, very passionate football city. It gets cold up there. It snows up there. They've had very, very cold weather. Against the Broncos, it was cold. Against the Ravens, it was cold. This game will actually be played in Kansas City. It will be cold there as well, but Buffalo is not afraid of the cold. They are blue and red and white are their colors out of Buffalo, New York. They are the number 2 seed in the AFC. They won their division. They had a very good season. They are led by 6'7" quarterback Josh Allen, who went to college at Wyoming. So if you like to root for a guy that was overlooked, a guy that was an underdog, then Josh Allen is your guy. He's been in the league about 6 seasons now. He is engaged to Haley Steinfeld, who you may know as an actress in a lot of stuff. So if you're into that side of sports, then there's that plug for that. Very good offensive attack. Josh Allen, of course, can throw the ball, but they can run. The offensive line is good. The defense is good, not great. That might be where their weakness is on the defensive side of the ball. We'll see if they can stop a very good Kansas City Chiefs team. But there's Buffalo for you if you want to root for Buffalo. And last but not least, the Kansas City Chiefs. You may or may not know a lot about them on and off the field. On the field, they had the NFL best record this year in 15-2. They are the number 1 seed, which means that they will play all their games at home in the playoffs until the Super Bowl. Again, this game will be played in Kansas City. Very passionate fan base as well. Arrowhead Stadium gets loud. Their colors are red, white, and a little bit of undertone of yellow in there. Patrick Mahomes, of course, is their quarterback, married to Brittany Mahomes, who they just welcomed their 3rd child a couple months ago. Travis Kelce, of course, Andy Reid, their head coach. Very good defense, coached by Steve Spagnuolo. Off the field, Taylor Swift, of course, is dating Travis Kelce. She was all over the headlines last year. She was a little bit this year, toned down a little. I know the Eras Tour kind of kept her away, but she was there with Caitlin Clark last game, so she always brings her celebrity friends into the box. So if you're into that, and if you're not into that, something to consider. Kansas City has won the Super Bowl 3 out of the last 4 years, I believe, or they've been to the Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl 4 out of the last 5 years, and they've won it 2 times. So they definitely have the experience come postseason. If you like to be a bandwagon fan, if you like to just pick the heavy favorite, if you just like to pick the best guys and just roll with that, if that's your fancy, then the Kansas City Chiefs are your team. Again, Kansas City, red, white, and yellow, playing the Buffalo Bills. All right, guys, so that's your NFL for Dummies this week. Which team to choose? Go back and listen again if you're unsure, or look it up. Pick your favorite team. It's more fun that way. Or you can just enjoy the game. Either way is cool with me. All right, now let's move into actually previewing the games themselves. So let's go back to the NFC side. Of course, the Philadelphia Eagles will be hosting the Commanders. This game will be on Fox on Sunday. The Eagles open up as 6-point favorites. Over-under is at 47.5 if you're into that. Some storylines to watch for the Washington Commanders going into this game. Of course, how will they contain Saquon Barkley? Saquon Barkley just went off for 200-plus yards, 2 touchdowns in the snow against the Los Angeles Rams. How will they do that? They lost Jalen Carter. Well, excuse me. Jalen Carter is on the Philadelphia Eagles, and the guard that guards him, Sam Cosmi, is out with an ACL injury during the Lions that happened. So it's going to be uncertain how they contain him. It's going to be uncertain how they contain Saquon Barkley on the defensive side of the ball. The Commanders play nickel a lot. Essentially, they invite the run. They invite teams to run the ball against them. So if you're an offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to run the ball against them. If you're Kellen Moore, you're going to be like, we're going to run the ball. Well, of course, you have Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. You're going to run the ball. Jalen Hurts, however, to watch for the Eagles, injured his left knee. He got twisted around. He got sacked a bunch in that game against the Rams. So it'll be interesting to see how mobile he is. He's, of course, going to go play and go give it his all. But how mobile he is might, affect the way Kellen Moore calls this game. This is the 5th NFC Championship game between NFC East teams. The first one happening in 1986. The previous 2 winners, 1982 Washington and 1986 Giants, won the Super Bowl as well. So take that for what you will. Look for the Eagles to run the ball. That's not news. You listening to me say that is not news. Barkley and Hurts will run a bunch. Who knows if A.J. Brown can get involved, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Zacchaeus can. Philadelphia get their pass game going. I wonder if that might be a defining factor if the run game can't carry them all the way, Watch out for the Commanders. Jalen Daniels is a dual threat quarterback. He can throw, he can run, and he will do just that. The defense will need to try to stop Saquon Barkley. They'll probably need to win the special teams battle. Every underdog does. It'll be interesting to see. Commanders are 5-3 outright and 6-2 against the spread as underdogs this season with 3 straight outright wins. The Eagles have won 9 straight home games. So again, this game is played in Philly, so that does help them. Let me know what you guys think down below. My personal thought is I think the Eagles win this one for a couple reasons. A, it's in Philadelphia. I think that home field advantage is real. B, Saquon Barkley is an X factor. I think he's going to have his way with the Washington Commanders. And C, I think ultimately at the end of the day, a young rookie quarterback. My brother actually gave me this stat. Of all rookie quarterbacks to make the NFC or to make the conference championship game, there has been 5. And no, there's been 6, and there's only been 1 to go on to the Super Bowl, 0 to win it all. So, being a rookie quarterback, eventually and being a young team, eventually that's going to catch up to you. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have more experience. I think they're going to win this game. Should be fun, though. Let's go over to the AFC side. Bills at Chiefs, 6:30 Eastern time on CBS. Chiefs are currently -2, and the over-under is 47.5 as well. Can the Bills finally take down the Chiefs in the playoffs after losing 3 straight times? The Bills have got them in the regular season, but come playoffs, Kansas City and Andy Reid just has their way. with the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have to go against history, losing 7 straight road playoff games. That is why that number 1 seed is so important, getting that home playoff game. Patrick Mahomes, who can do it all. He can run, he can throw, he can extend the play, he can flop and draw the fouls. He knows how to work the refs. Very difficult guy to play against. Buffalo, very good at forcing turnovers. However, the Chiefs have gone 8 straight games without forcing a turnover. So that will be key. That will be an X factor that I'll talk about in a second. Can the Chiefs get the Bills off the field on third down? If we were going back to the regular season, the Bills went 9 for 15 on third down in that matchup. Bills obviously went on to win that game. Can the Chiefs get them off the field? Can they force 3 and outs and punts and field goals as opposed to touchdowns? If they can, they have a very good shot. Of course, they got to C.J. Stroud, the Texans quarterback, 8 times in the divisional round. Bills, they force a lot of turnovers. They also commit the fewest amount of turnovers. They've only committed 8 while producing a league-high 35, regular season and postseason. So that is one of the key factors, in my opinion. They will need to force turnovers against Kansas City. If they don't force a single turnover, they will not win this game. If they can force 2, preferably 3, then the Bills are sitting pretty. The Chiefs, they have a lot of weapons, of course. Patrick Mahomes will find a way to get the ball to them. Andy Reid, very bright, very smart guy. It's going to be tough. Obviously, the defense for the Chiefs is very good as well. So really it comes down to, can Josh Allen and the offense score against a good Chiefs defense? And can the Bills defense slow down Patrick Mahomes and his star cast? I think I'm just going to go with history on this one. I know a lot of people are picking the Bills. I think the Bills are favored. I think a lot of people think the Bills are a better team and can beat the Chiefs. I'm going to go with history, though. As much as it pains me, I do not want to see the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl again, but they will get there. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid will find a way. They will get to the Super Bowl. And unfortunately for some, we will have a Super Bowl 59 rematch. We will have, or 57 rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans on February 9th. That is my prediction. Let me know your predictions down below. And before I say goodbye, thank you guys for sticking around. I try to keep these episodes very short, very brief, because I know that the world is bigger than sports and we have other things to get to. But I do want to address what some teams have done in the offseason. 28 teams are in the offseason. Your team's probably one of them. So there's been some head coach hirings, some head coaches let go. I'll have a full breakdown in a future episode, but I do want to talk about a few that have happened so far this last week and whatnot. The New England Patriots, of course, parted ways with Gerard Mayo after only 1 season. They bring in Mike Vrabel. I love this hiring. I think it's great for Vrabel, a former coach of the year. The Patriots have some good young players. Drake May looks like he has a future. The Patriots might just become good again. We'll see. But great hiring by Mike Vrabel, who spent this season just kind of as an assistant, not even assistant coach, but just an assistant with the team. And so it'll be good for him to get back in the game. Of course, the Chicago Bears let go of Matt Eberflus midway through the season after that incomplete meltdown on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions. They bring in Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Here it is. The Bears have their quarterback. Now they have their coach. You kind of need both those pieces, and Eberflus and Williams was not really fitting. So there you go. The Jets bring in Aaron Glenn, former player for the Jets. Did very well there. Of course, he was on the Lions, calling their defense. Now he comes over here to the Jets. Jacksonville Jaguars moved away from Doug Peterson. They bring over Liam Cohen. He was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and helped Baker throw 41 touchdown passes, and that Bucs offense was cooking. So they're hoping for a similar result between Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. And then the most recent one that happened just today, the Las Vegas Raiders bring in Pete Carroll. That is right. Pete Carroll, former head coach of the USC Trojans and the Seattle Seahawks, will now be coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, we will talk more about this in the future, but the 74-year-old takes over and will become the oldest coach ever at 74 and will take over the Las Vegas Raiders. Could be very interesting to see what they do. They might go after a quarterback. I think they should go after a quarterback if they really want to rebuild this team. But there you go. Again, we'll talk more about head coaching, more about NFL offseason after the Super Bowl is over. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this is a podcast you can find anywhere you get your podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family. Thank you, guys. Go watch some NFL Conference Championships, and we'll see you guys next week for another edition of Fan Talk.